It's raining heavily. Some telephone lines are down. River gauge information is hard to get. It's 2 in the morning, and as usual, staffing is tight. It's July, and everyone who owns a tent is camping near the serene river. This is the hot seat. This is where you will sit someday and make decisions concerning flash floods that might be evaluated by a disaster survey team. Could you sit down right now with confidence and assurance and handle a significant flash flood? If not, then your station needs to improve its flash flood program. But let's get back to you, because sooner or later, you will sit here. These Weather Service personnel have warmed the chair for you. They've created some effective programs that work during a disaster. These programs are designed and maintained throughout the year so that when they sit here, they can react with confidence. And it's easier to react with confidence when you have some idea of the hydrological features in your area of responsibility. There's no substitute for visiting and documenting flood-prone areas. Someone from the station should visit the area and meet the people who will be involved in the flash flood program. They should document problems, contacts, and available data. This information should then be provided in an organized form to the station staff. Visiting the area will also reveal each community's state of preparedness, which may vary greatly depending on the county.
We do a lot of traveling here in the Weather Service Forecast Office area of San Antonio. We have a warning preparedness meteorologist that travels fully 50 to 60% of his time. Our service hydrologist, usually accompanied by one of our other people in the office, travels as much as he can. I get out as much as I can, and as does our principal assistant. It gives us the opportunity to visit with civil defense people and other people that are involved in preparedness work in their communities. It even gives us some insight to problems that they have that we might not have known of before we went up there. And I think this has really paid off. A good example of how this has paid off is actually what happened, say, during the flooding last August 1st through the 3rd in the Hill Country. We knew who we were dealing with there, and they knew us. We were quite sure that our warnings would get to them, and we made every effort to see that they did, even by dispatching radio people up there to receive our warnings and pass on to them. Another might be at New Braunfels. I think their warning posture is excellent. They keep somebody in their warning center 24 hours a day, available for weather warnings if necessary. I don't think I'll ever be completely satisfied with our warning posture. We've done an awful lot of work, and I think it's paid off. However, I think we've only scratched the surface here, and that we have to keep plugging in this area as long and as hard as we can.
Arizona does not have a service hydrologist. I wish we did, but we don't. Therefore, the whole responsibility of the flooding episode rests with the lead forecaster. We do have in Arizona, though, a program that helps along these lines, namely one where we can go out and visit the people we talk to on the telephone regarding flooding, and also visit the areas that are prone to flooding and flash flooding. Apparently, X number of dollars is allotted to this program, and as time permits, we can go out and check out these areas. Now, I feel that there isn't enough money given to this purpose because I've been here now quite a while, had the opportunity to visit only one area. And there are a lot of areas that are subject to flooding and flash flooding, areas that we have all got to go visit so that we can properly do the job we're supposed to do.
The San Antonio Forecast Office has 88 counties in its forecast area of responsibility. And unfortunately, no two of these 88 counties have the same warning and preparedness planning. The National Weather Service Office, we have to keep in mind the fact that they receive warnings either from NOAA Weather Radio, NOAA Weather Wire Service, Texas Law Enforcement Teletype System, or in some cases only by telephone. In evaluating the preparedness planning and response in each county, we have to keep in mind how they receive the warnings and the special requirements that each individual county needs. Immediately following the August 1978 flash flooding in the 3 counties, we visited each one, and during the ensuing months, follow-up visits were made. It was encouraging the reception we received from each of the county officials. Not only did they help us identify problems in disseminating watches and warnings, but they also identified internal warnings systems within the county that needed to be improved. Rain gauge networks were one problem that was identified. We have established more rain gauges in each of the counties with a lot of public awareness going into the establishment of these gauges. In fact, Kerr County needed a system whereby they would get automated rainfall and river reports from various parts of the county that we were not able to supply them. Communications was another area that was discussed with the county officials, and at this time we have a 24-hour focal point in each county that we may phone during critical, severe flash flooding situations. Finally, public awareness is one aspect in each county that's been treated, with a large public meeting having been held in Kerr County to identify the problems during the flood and what people should do if it should happen again. Follow-up on all of these various aspects should provide a much improved county warning responsibility in each of the 3 counties.
Realistic station drills are another effective method of preparing yourself for a flash flood. Drills will acquaint you with the specific problems of an area and help you to locate valuable hydro information. Drills also build confidence in dealing with a potential disaster. They are an invaluable substitute for experience, especially for new staff members. Drills are an important support tool for employee motivation.
In Arizona, probably our biggest single meteorological event that causes disasters is flash flooding. Before we can have any meteorologist act as a storm coordinator, we've developed a system of disaster readiness certification in which every member of our staff, from meteorologists down through weather service specialists, have to go through a series of exercises and drills that we've developed realistically here on the station from not only past historical events that we've had here in the state, but also some scenarios on what could happen in the future. Before I can be absolutely certain that a man can sit in as storm coordinator, he has got to go through, to my satisfaction and the principal assistant's satisfaction, that he has completed all of these drills, such as flash flooding procedures and various other tech memos, but also our drills that we've had here in the past.
During the past few years I've been in Phoenix, we've had some rather arduous river drills. The object of these river drills was to help our forecasters become familiar with water resources data for the state of Arizona as published by the U.S. Geological Survey. Knowing where this data is and knowing how to use it has helped us to get a good relationship between stage height and river and stream flow. As a result of knowing this data and knowing where it was, we were able to issue several timely flash flood warnings during this past year.
One of the biggest problems we have at any forecast office is to motivate employees to react properly in times of disaster. An employee who knows his area, who knows what water can do, can react the best when he has to. We have a few forecasters at this office who, when they first came here, didn't know a thing about hydrology. One of them has become so adept that during the last December storms, he was able to put out a site-specific warning of such urgency and magnitude that the people were able to react properly in the Safford River, in the Safford Valley of Arizona. Another man we had wouldn't touch hydrology with a 10-foot pole. Since he's taken our drills, he's gotten over his buck fever. He isn't afraid to get his feet wet. And during the storm, he acted quite well as the storm coordinator. It's things like our drills that have gotten these people over this fear of the unknown, fear of what they don't know, they can't do. With the drills, they don't have that same reaction. And both of these men are some of my top men at this time. And nearly all the people in the office are going through these drills so that they will be able to perform likewise.
When I first came to Phoenix, I really didn't care much about hydrology. In fact, I guess I still am not that really engrossed in it, but in Arizona it becomes a necessity. It is the #1 problem we have in here. We have to worry about. We have to worry about other things too, like heavy snow, but the main problem here is flash flooding. So I was kind of force-fed, shall we say, a program to get me to understand the problems of Arizona, the areas of flooding, and how to forecast what to do with it. And the best way I felt that this was taught to me was through station drills and a special program the MIC set up, which he calls the Disaster Readiness Certification. What it all means is that over a period of time, twice, 3 times a year, we had drills, specific drills aimed at problems of Arizona, not problems of the East or anywhere else, but only for our area. And by doing this, or by having these drills, I was able to find out the different areas where we have problems, and probably more important, where to get the information when I need it about a particular area, drainage basin, what have you. Because we don't get floods that often where you're going to have to be able to remember everything. You kind of have to know where to look to find the information. And this is what the drills did. They taught me where to go to get the information in a hurry when I need it, so that hopefully I can put out a forecast.
Basic hydrologic training is another valuable tool that will pay off when handling a flash flood. A working knowledge of hydrology will enable you to deal with a flash flood without being totally dependent on your service hydrologist. Everyone should be encouraged to take National Weather Service or any other hydro course. Every station should develop its own hydro training program tailored to its specific needs.
I transferred to this forecast office a little over 2 years ago, and shortly after coming here, one of the things that our service hydrologist did was brief me on the areas within our forecast area which are critical as far as flash flooding goes. We even got together and prepared this map and marked the areas which are most critical, one of which was the Kerrville area on the Guadalupe River. So on the night of the flood, when we got reports of heavy rain in that area, I was able to realize that it was a critical situation and we needed to get strongly worded warnings out. But not only in the area which is one of our counties as far as county warning area, but we've delineated these critical flash flood areas in the whole region that the WSFO is responsible for. For example, up around Austin or over in Houston, we've marked all these areas so that we can assist our WSOs in their job of warning within their own counties. I think this was invaluable training for me to become aware of these critical areas, and so I encourage all of our forecasters to work with the service hydrologists, especially the people who newly transfer in here, so they can quickly become aware of the critical areas that they have to deal with.
When I transferred to the San Antonio office here 3 years ago, I noticed that the hydrologic program here only had one man really working in it. That was our hydrologist, George Cush. I sort of took it on myself to help in this program, and with the encouragement of Mr. B. Loretto, the MIC, and with the expert training of George, I have become pretty familiar with the programs here in this office. I now feel that I am probably competent enough to handle the river flash flooding and the river flood programs for this office. During the flooding caused by Amelia last August, George and I worked almost continuously for about 2.5 days. We coordinated our efforts in this program in that both of us would be on duty during the heavy collection and forecast periods, and the rest of the time we would then spell each other to have some breaks.
There are several things that go into the decision-making policy of a watch or a warning. One, I think, is the forecaster's knowledge of the area in which he's forecasting for, and secondly, the experience that he's had in the past. I know here in San Antonio we have a fairly good background and also a good training program for the hydrological program, we work in close coordination with the service hydrologist, and so we're familiar with the areas that are prone to flash flooding here in southeast Texas.
Setting up emergency communication contacts before a disaster can assure your office the ability to get information when it's critically needed. Ham radio operators can supply valuable information during any disaster. They can give you ground truth feedback when all other sources fail. Ham radio operators can also act as an important link in obtaining feedback from the flood-threatened area.
It was because of the Arizona Repeater Association group that we were able to update our warnings with a lot more effectiveness and confidence. While radar was indicating fairly heavy precipitation in the Prescott area to the northwest of Phoenix, it was through the Arizona Repeater Association group that we learned that 4 inches of rain had fallen in that area, and therefore we updated our warnings immediately.
Last spring, during the flood in March, we fortunately became acquainted with a very dear lady by the name of Gert Pond. Gert Pond has since become a very dear friend and a very valuable assistant to us in our warning system. Gert is a network operator for the Arizona Repeater Association, and she can sit at her console and solicit reports from virtually all over the state. All we have to do is look at a radar and look at a problem area or a potential threat area, call Gert on the telephone and ask her to solicit reports from that particular area, and she can get a ground truth information back in just a few moments.
Hello, Jack. Very nice seeing you again. And this is Gert Pond. Gert, very nice seeing you also.
Glad to meet you.
Gert, we just wanted to come over here this afternoon and talk to you and tell you how much we appreciate the service that you have rendered to the National Weather Service. It has been an invaluable service throughout the floods of last year, and particularly in the flood of December. Tell me, Gert, just how much time did you spend at your transceiver, particularly during the flood in December?
Well, I stayed right here for, a couple nights and 3 days, I guess, while it was going on, getting information from all of our mobile stations out on the different highways and from all corners of the state, you might say, from Kingman on the northwest and down in Ajo to the south, Tucson, Flagstaff, stations that were, some of them as much as 250 miles away, that we were able to get information from them, and they were able to get information from the stations farther out, like Las Vegas and everything like that, plus our mobiles that we had out here right in the immediate area.
On the morning of the hill country floods, the lead forecaster called me about 4 a.m., and I was able to get into the office about 4:30. He had already issued flash flood warnings for some of the counties, and when I got in, we got reports of additional heavy rainfall up in the area of 15 to 17 inches, and I continued issuing flash flood warnings for other of the counties. Shortly thereafter, we lost all communications with the area, telephone communications plus the Civil Defense NAWA circuit, and had no way to communicate with them at all to know what was going on. We suspected the situation was serious since communications had gone out. About that time, one of our ham radio operators called into the office on his own and asked if we needed help. We immediately said yes. They came out to the office, set up the base station, asked us what they needed to do. We told them we needed to get people into the stricken area to get us reports of what was going on. They immediately dispatched mobile units up into the hill country, and from thereafter they were on duty here in the office for about 36 hours, continuously relaying information to us on river stages and rainfall reports.
The amateur radio weather service communications project in San Antonio has been in effect for 4 or 5 years. We feel that it's of benefit, of course, to the weather service, but the amateurs think of it as a contribution to the community.
Flash flood warnings to be issued in a flood such as this cannot be issued without specific data. Radar and satellite data provided primary information. However, we needed rain gauge information, of which we had very little because of the loss of communication. All the telephone lines in the area were taken out immediately during the storm. At this point, we had to go and rely on radio amateurs in the radio amateur Skywarn network that were dispatched to this area to provide data for us.
When a disaster occurs, station operations should be organized to enable you to cope with several situations at the same time. Equipment malfunctions and communication failures are common problems. Alternative sources for ground truth feedback must be cultivated so that during a disaster, they are prepared to respond. Additional staffing is usually needed when floods threaten, as well as organizing radar coordination.
I've been working in Phoenix for 6 years now as a lead forecaster. During that period of time, we've had several major flash floods in the Arizona area. Many times during these flash floods, we find that our equipment tends to break down. We tend to lose rain gauges due to the flooding. Also, we find sometimes that the people engaged in the flooding activities are too busy to call us back and let us know they're having a problem. In that case, in both those cases, it's up to the forecaster to go out and seek the ground truth. He must be aggressive and try to find what information he can, bearing in mind that many times the people he needs to talk to are not able to get a hold of him. Due to the failure of the river gauges, considerable data was lost during the floods of December 1978 on the San Francisco and Gila rivers. As a result of previous floods, the county sheriff had stationed a deputy above the town of Duncan, and through the county sheriff we were able to get considerable feedback from this deputy. This enabled us to issue some very timely and important weather statements and flood statements for the town of Duncan, advising the people to evacuate the town. Also, we worked very closely with the State Emergency Services Division, and they were able to get us some very valuable feedback throughout the state in this flood.
We're now located on the banks of the Medina River, some 35 miles northwest of San Antonio, at the site of a flash flood which occurred past August. At this point, water rose 50 feet in approximately 8 minutes. 8 lives were lost, and 8 homes here were swept downstream. Most of the people here were warned, and they failed to leave. The few that did leave saved their lives. These flood warning systems are a part of an ongoing flash flood warning network that we had in operation in this area. This flash flood network could not be established the night of the disaster. The network has to be prepared during the time, the months before the disaster, when we put out rain gauges, we contact people in the area, we establish methods and procedure obtaining information, and we, in most cases, try to obtain some type of amateur radio or civil defense radio in the area.
One of the most important considerations in flash flood forecasting, and indeed in almost any severe weather forecasting situation, is adequate staffing. The meteorologist in charge, or in most cases a lead forecaster, or in the case of a WSO, a Weather Service Office, a decision must be made very early in the episode as to whether or not you have adequate staffing. My big cry is always get help. There should be no excuse for not having your station adequately staffed for any kind of severe weather situation. In March of this year, I came on duty and inherited a flash flood watch. We decided that a flash flood warning was needed, and we also decided we may need some help on severe weather later on that evening. As a result, we kept a man over to operate the radar. We also kept an extra lead forecaster on duty to serve as a storm coordinator. We kept an extra communicator on duty to hold and take care of the non-routine matters that needed to be done in the communications room. As a result, we were able to very handily take care of this severe weather situation.
Shortly after a flash flood disaster, every station should spend time going back to the affected areas. Now is the time to get local officials to update their flood warning preparedness programs. After a flash flood is also the most opportune time to find communities in a cooperative mood. Check your own station's flash flood program and profit from the mistakes that occurred during the disaster.
After every storm, we have a review, both internally and externally, of what we did right and what we did wrong. This is very important if we're ever going to make progress in making a better warning as a result, particularly of the December 78 storm, in which we had to literally go fishing from the Forest Service to get the data that we needed to evaluate the flooding. We have now established policies with the Forest Service Regional Headquarters to make it mandatory for all of their fire danger stations in all of their forests, which there are 6 in Arizona and 2 or 3 in the contingent drainage areas of New Mexico, will report automatically to us on our teletype system. One of the problems that we did find that the Weather Service did stop the fire weather circuit early in December, and we're working on that problem to keep that circuit operational now year-round. Operationally speaking, after these floods, we took a good look at what had happened internally here, and we found out that during the times when the storm coordinator needed to fish for data, that he did not have lines available. As a result, we now have telephone lines now in the EOC and also at the radar position to handle just such fishing calls that we have to make.
I don't think I'll ever be completely satisfied with our warning posture. We've done an awful lot of work, and I think it's paid off. However, I think we've only scratched the surface here, and that we have to keep plugging in this area as long and as hard as we can.